Welcome back, everybody. This is Season 2, Episode 2 of the Pundit's Playbook. I'm Marty, Screw Tank. We're going to hit the South today, and we're going to talk first with the AFC. So we're going to talk about the Titans, okay? So the Titans last year went 6-11. Right now, you can get them at plus 950 to take this division, and they are projected at 6.5 wins. So let's talk about some positives. And the first positive is the coaching change. They have a new OC and head coach. So the Titans last year ran the ball so much on early downs, and they kept on doing it over and over again, and they didn't get anywhere. They averaged 3.1 yards per carry, but kept on doing it over and over again. This led to Will Levis in obvious passing situations, and defense feasts on that with young quarterbacks. I don't know why they did that, but this year I think it's going to change. So their new head coach, Brian Callahan, he comes from the Bengals, Cincinnati. Over the past 2 years, the Bengals were top 3 in early passing downs. So what do I think is going to happen? They are going to go from running the ball a lot to passing on early downs, and I think that will help Will Levis. To also go with my thesis, they added Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, 2 pretty decent pass catchers. And on top of that, this season, they're scheduled to face the 3rd easiest pass defense, but the 4th toughest run defense. So I'm expecting a lot of passing out of this team. But now let's transition into the negatives. So they're projected to face the 6th hardest schedule this year. And they added some pieces to their O-line, but their O-line is still ranked 24th best in the NFL, so I don't really like that. The team's at 6.5 wins, and I think that is pretty fair, to be honest. But now let's move into the Colts, and we're going to talk about why I like the Colts. But last year they came in 3rd. They went 9-8. This year you can get them at plus 310 to win the division, and they're projected at 8.5 wins. So let's talk about why I like this team, and it has to do with the coaching. Head coach Shane Steichen, I really liked him last season. So let's talk about what happened. So they started with the rookie quarterback, and he only played for 4 games. Anthony Richardson, he was hurt, and ended the season. Then they go to a backup quarterback. They only had 3 wide receivers on the team when it was August 30th, so they weren't deep at all. Jonathan Taylor missed the first 4 weeks, and they had a very tough schedule. And with all that, they were still able to win 9 wins, so I really like the coaching there. Anthony Richardson, he's going to be back this season and hopefully healthy. The ceiling is through the roof with him. I think he could do pretty well, but it all depends on his health. They have the 7th easiest schedule this season, and their O-line ranks top 5 in the NFL, so I really like this team from an offensive point of view. We're going to talk about some of the negatives now. So last year they were 7-0 when they won the turnover battle. When they lost the turnover battle, they were 0-6. Why is this a concern for me? Well, teams that rely on the turnover battle usually take a step back the next season, so it's a little iffy there. They went 1-7 when they trailed at half. So if they didn't have the lead at halftime, they played horrible. So that's something they need to address. And then the last thing I don't like about this is their schedule this year pertaining to their rest. So their net rest edge is 30th best in the NFL, so the 3rd hardest. And they play 5 opponents that have a week to prepare for the Colts. So a lot of teams have rest on them. They have more time to prepare. So I really don't like that. But overall, I like this coaching, and we'll see what Anthony Richardson and the Colts can do this season. So now we're going to move and talk about the Jags. So last year I had the Jags as my number 1 pick, and they ended up choking and coming in 2nd. They went 9-8 last season. You can get them now at plus 270 to take this division, only behind Houston, and they're projected at 8.5 wins. So we're going to talk about some of the negatives first. And last year, a lot of negatives had to do with Trevor Lawrence, okay? He was hurt. He was banged up towards the end of the season, and he struggled. Where did he struggle? Lots of sacks, interceptions, and incompletions. A lot of his receivers had drops, too. It was insane how much of the receivers were dropped, but I think that still is part on Lawrence. The run game last year was absolutely horrible. They ranked 30th in yards per rush at 3.5 yards per carry. And they were 31st in running back red zone efficiency, so they gotta true up that and get that better. They have the 2nd toughest schedule through week 13, so I can see them starting off pretty slow, but towards the end of the season, I could see them getting hot and trying to make a playoff push. Let's talk about some of the positives, though. I couldn't really find many positives. Maybe Trevor Lawrence will be healthier this year, and maybe he'll be better or take a step up. I know they drafted Brian Robinson Jr. and they signed Gabe Davis, so hopefully they can help him out there and not drop passes like all of last season. So when the Jags don't get a turnover on defense under Trevor Lawrence, they are, in 19 games, they are 1-18. Absolutely horrible. They need to do better. If they don't get a turnover, they don't win the game pretty much. Kind of wild, but okay. But now we're going to move into the Texans. So the Texans last year, they took this division. It's very tight. They went 10-7. This year you can get them at plus 105 to take this division. And we're going to talk about why I like this team. So let's talk about the positives. So last year they played without 4 of their 5 projected starting linemen, and they were still able to win 10 games. The team is trying to go all in with C.J. Stroud on this team. He was a rookie last year. He's on his rookie contract, so they can spend a lot of money elsewhere, and that's what they did. Who did they sign? They signed Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs. They re-signed Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. And then they added pieces on defense as well. So they're trying to go for the Super Bowl with this rookie contract for the quarterback. They spent $151 million to sign 18 players in free agency. Their O-line is ranked 10th best this year, and their D-line is at 9th best. So this team is very talented, led by C.J. Stroud, with a lot of offensive pieces and a pretty decent defense. I can see this team going pretty far. But let's talk about some negatives of last year. So C.J. Stroud, he struggled under pressure. He was 27th in EPA, that's expected points added, 35th in success rate, and 30th in yards per attempt. So he did horrible under pressure. That's something he needs to work on. Let's talk about their running too. They called too many run plays on first down, and they just didn't get anywhere, and I don't know why they kept on doing it. So on first down run plays, they were 28th in success, 27th in yards per rush, and 22nd in EPA, expected points added. And then the last bullet point I have is they face the 7th hardest schedule this year with their unique 3 games coming against the Chiefs, Ravens, and Cowboys. But that's all I have for all 4 of them. So now let's do my prediction. So coming in 4th, I'm going to have Tennessee. They're at 6.5 wins. I don't really expect too much. I hope Will Levis does better this year, but not expecting much. In 3rd place, I'm going to have Jacksonville. This team all depends on the health of Trevor Lawrence. They kind of choked this division last year, and I mean I think they're pretty decent, but we'll see how they do. In 2nd place, I have Indy, and the sole reason is because I think Anthony Richardson could be really well. His ceiling is high, and I love that coaching they have. The only thing I don't like is their scheduling and the rest disadvantages they have. And then last but not least, we have Houston. They're showing us they're trying to go all out this season, and they might be able to. And now we're going to switch up to the NFC South, and we're going to talk about Carolina. So Carolina went 2-15 last year, absolutely horrible. They're plus 1,000 to take this division, and they're projected at 4.5 wins. But let's talk about some positives for this season. So they have the 10th easiest schedule this year. They traded for Deontay Johnson, and they drafted Xavier Leggett and Jonathan Brooks in the 1st and 2nd round. They play the 26th toughest schedule of defense and the 23rd toughest schedule of offenses, so they don't really have a tough schedule this year. And last year they ranked 30th in health, so this year hopefully they can stay a little more healthier, have their players out there and win more than 2 games. Maybe, I don't know. But let's talk about some negatives. So out of the past 100 games, how many wins do you think they have in the past 100 games? It's 31, which is absolutely horrible. Horrible franchise for the past, I don't know, like 5-10 years, whatever, after they got rid of Cam Newton. Bryce Young last year was pretty much dead last in a lot of QB stats, but hopefully that can change this year, but I'm thinking it's not going to. So they brought in a new head coach, Dave Canales. He's from Tampa Bay. I think he was the OC there in Tampa, and he loved to call first down runs over and over again, and they got nowhere, but he just loved to keep on doing it and doing it. He's Arthur Smith 2.0. I don't really like the guy. They averaged, the Bucs last season, they averaged 3.4 yards per carry, and he just kept on doing it over and over again. Don't know why. But for the Panthers, with that, their O-line is ranked 23rd, and their D-line is ranked 29th, so nothing really exciting there. And a cool fact about this team, only team in the NFL to not hold a lead in any game entering the 4th quarter of last season. So congrats to Carolina. 2 wins last year. They're at 4.5. Maybe that sounds right. I don't know, but I'm not high on this team at all. And now we have the Falcons. So I picked the Falcons last year to win this division, and they kind of choked. They came in 3rd, and they went 7-10. But this year, though, they are the favorites at minus 120, which is pretty steep. But let's talk about some positives. So they're projected at 9.5 wins. A big positive, they got rid of Arthur Smith, their old head coach. I hated him. He just ran the ball over and over again, and I just did not like the guy. So I'm glad he is gone, and they brought in an actual quarterback. They no longer have Desmond Ridder. They have Kirk Cousins now, and they still have skilled players. So they have Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Mooney. So they have a lot of good players, and I think they're going to throw the ball a lot with Kirk Cousins. So I really like this Atlanta team. Last year, their defense was good, so hopefully that transitions to this year as well. And they have the easiest schedule in the NFL, and their O-line ranked is 8th in the league. So I like this team a lot, and I think that 120 is pretty fair. But let's talk about some negatives. Their run game last year, was absolutely horrible, but Arthur Smith kept on doing it over and over again. But Bijan was just not that great last year. They were 17th in yards per carry and 26th in success rate running the ball, which I expected more out of Bijan. This year they wasted the number 8 overall draft pick, Michael Penix. He's going to be the backup quarterback. They could have drafted someone like Rome Odunze or a defensive player or someone, but they wanted to draft a backup quarterback. I don't know why. That's not going to help them win this season. And their D-line's pretty bad. It's ranked 30th this year, so third worst. So I don't really like that. And a cool fun fact about them for last year, they only had one wide receiver that had more than 30 targets, Drake London. Everyone else had less than 30 targets. That's insane. So now we're going to move into the Saints. And I'm not really high on the Saints, but they came in second last year at 9-8. You can get them at plus 380 to take this division. And their projected wins is at 7.5, but we're going to talk about the negatives first. So their O-line is ranked 25th, and I think that could be much worse. I think it could be the worst in the league, to be honest. Their best O-lineman, I think he retired this season, and I think Derek Carr is going to be in a lot of trouble. Their D-line is ranked 27th, so they don't really have much talent on either line. Kamara, so he's getting older. He had his worst season last year. I think he averaged 3.9 yards per carry, and he's got a year older, so I think that's going to hurt them a lot as well. And with Kamara, his cap hit is $18.6 million, which is the highest on the team. That makes up 8% of the cap hit for the Saints. Carr last year, he was horrible when pressured, and their O-line is horrible this year, so he's going to get pressured again. I think he's going to be pretty bad again as well. And he was horrible on 3rd and 4th downs, and I think that's going to just continue this season as well. And then another bad statistic with them is their rest. So they are the 6th worst in the league when it was net rest edge. So a lot of teams have a lot more rest than they do, which I don't like as well. But let's talk about the few positives I have. So the first positive is they're running back pretty much the same offense as last year, so the chemistry is high. They got Carr, Olave, Shaheed, and they got Johnson and Hill at tight end. So maybe that chemistry can outdo that bad O-line. They have the 5th easiest schedule this season. And then after week 7 of last year, they ranked number 9 in red zone conversion rate. What did they do differently? They started using Taysom Hill a lot, so hopefully they can use him as a playmaker this year and try to do something, but I'm really not high on this team at all. So now let's transition into the last team. We got Tampa Bay. So they took this division. This is a very tight division, went into the last week. They ended up taking it 9-8. You can get them at plus 310 to win this division. They're projected at 8.5 wins, but let's start with some of the positives. So they have the 11th easiest schedule this season. You see a lot of reoccurring themes with easy schedule with this division. And they have a new OC this year. Their prior one was Dave Canales that we talked about earlier, which I don't like. Their new OC is Liam Cohen. He comes from the Rams, and hopefully he will not run the ball as much as Canales. I think he will pass more, and I think he's going to try to fix the running on early downs. So hopefully that will help out Baker Mayfield. But that's really all I have on the positives. So now let's move into the negatives. So last year, they went 1-5 versus teams that made the playoffs and 8-3 versus teams that didn't make it. So they just bullied the bad teams and did bad against good teams. They went 3-6 in games they didn't win the turnover battle, and they went 1-6 in games when their opponent scored more than 20 points. That's not a recipe to win a lot of games, but somehow they still won 9 games last year. Their O-line wasn't that good, and their running game was bad. So hopefully they can fix that. I think they were dead last in yards per carry at 3.4 yards. Mayfield, he was elite on 3rd and 4th downs last year, and I don't think that's going to translate to this season. It doesn't usually. So when you're relying on 3rd and 4th downs to be elite, it's just a recipe for disaster for the next season. And then I think they ran hot last year. They got really hot. So they were hot in the turnover luck, fumble luck, field goal luck, health luck, and then Mayfield running hot on 3rd and 4th downs. That won't translate to next season. So I'm not really high on this Tampa Bay team at all. But now let's do my summary. So in the 4th place, I'm going to have Carolina. I'm sorry, but I don't like their new head coach, and I think he's going to be tough on Bryce Young, and I don't think Bryce Young is going to have that great of a season. So coming in 3rd, we're going to have the Saints. I'm not high on this team. Horrible O-line. Hopefully Carr can try to make them better, but I'm not really too sure. And 2nd, we have Tampa Bay. Again, I'm not really sure if this team's going to be that great. I really don't like this division at all. I can see these 3 teams going under 500 and not doing well. And then last but not least, we have Atlanta. So they have a big price at minus 120, and I think that is deserved. I think they have the best quarterback in this division and probably the best talent offensively and defensively. So I think they deserve that minus 120 price tag. But that's my summary, and that's all I got. So remember, keep on grinding and keep on hustling and never give up. Thank you.